We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining this morning. My name is Jenna Witherby, and I'm one of the advisors on the team at 401k Plan Professionals. And today's webinar is a part of our webinar series. Over the last several years, we've chosen various topics to take a deeper dive on. Today's topic is our wellness series. And this is something that my team is really proud of. We've been talking a lot about to both plan sponsors and 401k plan participants. It's something that we created and we're happy to share. So, when it comes to your personal finances, it's important not to just wing it. And we want to equip you with a plan, steps, tools, and how to become financially well. So, this is why we've created these 8 steps to becoming financially well. And this is composed of things we've talked to people over the years. We've been boots on the ground at various companies, not only talking to people about their 401k, but of course, all these other various aspects of people's financial pictures comes up in conversations. So it's not just us that notices this day to day in our work that we do. There's a lot of research and studies behind the financial health of Americans. And unfortunately, most Americans find themselves either financially coping or financially vulnerable. So we're passionate about empowering people to take control of their finances, have a plan, and get them over to the left hand side, right? Get them over to being financially healthy. And the reason why I think employers really like getting this information to their staff too is because these types of stressors can come up when you're not feeling financially well. All these ones on the screen could be overeating, sleep deprivation, substance abuse, relationship issues, mental illness. And so when you're not feeling financially healthy, it can trickle into many different areas of your life. And that's why our 401k plan clients have been very receptive to this kind of information because when we're feeling good over here, it helps us be a better worker, a better friend, a better parent, a better brother, sister, whatever. And so we've realized it's all related, right? So this financial wellness series will help you. And if you're a plan sponsor, if you work at a company and you're a part of the benefits area, human resources, 401k, it can help your employees manage your daily expenses, pay off debt, different kinds of debt, save for certain goals, plan for future expenses, save money for retirement, and invest for the long term. So I'm going to bring you through these 8 steps. It's a lot of content, it's a lot of information, and I'll share at the end where you can find all of this information too, right on our website and our YouTube channel, and it's all broken down so you can access this in the future. You'll also get a recording of this after the live presentation. And feel free to share it with anybody that you think may find value. And as always, contact myself and our team if you have questions. Pick up the phone, give us a call, send us an email. We're definitely here to help and be a resource to you. So let's dive in. Step one is to establish an emergency fund. We're 401k advisors, and notice we're not saying the first thing you need to do is save a lot of money in your 401k. You want to have money set aside for those unforeseen, emergency, unplanned events that come up. There are studies and data that shows that nearly 4 in 10 Americans would have difficulty covering a $400 unexpected expense. And you may hear different figures here. Different advisors have different opinions, and it doesn't need to be to the exact penny, but accumulate 3 to 6 months worth of your expenses in your savings or easily accessible, right? I've even heard upwards of 12 months. But the point is to keep this portion of money in a conservative, easy to access, quick to access account like a saving or a checking account. Do not let unexpected expenses bust your budget. And when I say emergency expenses or unexpected, here's just some examples. Let's say your car breaks down. You don't really have a choice but to fix that, right? You need to get to work. You need to bring your kids to school. We can't walk everywhere in a lot of cases. You lose your phone. Your pet needs an emergency vet visit. If you live in Minnesota and your furnace goes out in the middle of winter, things that you need to pay for. And when you pay for unexpected expenses with your credit card, or you get a loan, or you borrow money from somebody, your emergency fund can be that buffer where you use that money instead. It can be the buffer between you and increased debt or other issues that may follow. So for example, I have here, let's say your car breaks down and the cost to repair it is $1,200. Well, if you put it on a credit card with that high interest rate, you will probably end up spending several hundred more dollars um, for that car expense. This is just an example, paying it over 5 years at 18% interest. So it ends up costing you over $600 more than the actual expense itself. Now, insurance can help. Obviously, you can alleviate some emergency expenses by having appropriate auto, health, and home insurance. Something we may see down the line too is through the recent legislation changes um, in a bill called Secure 2.0. Plan sponsors may offer an emergency savings account as a part of their retirement plan. So there may be a cap of, say $2,500 on that, and the contributions need to be made with Roth dollars invested in a conservative investment. And employers can do different things like fund it automatically with employee money or just have it there as an option. So there are some restrictions and some rules surrounding this, but we're excited about this optional provision because it will allow people this option to tap into instead of, again, credit card, 401k loan, hardship withdrawal, things like that. And I want you to think of this as not just for emergency expenses, terrible things that happen. If it's helpful, you can also think of this as an opportunity fund and be able to say yes to things that you want to say yes to. Go on that weekend trip or sign your kid up for something that they want to do. So we don't always have to think doomsday here. Now, how to do this? Do what works best for you. I would say for most people, automatic transfers are ideal and helpful. So you can say transfer money from your checkings to this savings account automatically every month. Or I know some companies allow their employees to set up automatic transfers right from their paycheck to a certain account. And I would say avoid mixing this money with other money, just so you can keep it separate and just know, okay, this is my emergency fund. But ultimately, find what works best for you. Okay, so once you've gotten a handle on that, you've got that emergency fund built up. The next thing is to set a goal to save through your employer sponsored 401k plan. So this is really where my team comes into play, right? So it depends plan to plan on what your eligibility rules are. It depends on if your employer has a match or a profit sharing contribution. If your employer does have a match, first and foremost, save at least enough to get that full employer match. Don't leave any free money on the table. If you don't have a match available to you, a good rule of thumb as a starting point, I would say, is around 5%. Do what you can do. I would much rather have people get started, even if it's 1, 2, 3% versus not do it at all. But good rule of thumb, 5%. And we like to see people eventually, this will come into play later, but eventually build that up to 10 to 15%. If you work somewhere that doesn't offer a 401k plan, there are other alternatives, and we're more than happy to talk through those with you. And if you're self employed too, same thing. My husband owns his own company. He doesn't have a 401k, but he has a SEP IRA that he has set up for his retirement account. Savings options for pre tax versus Roth. Most 401k plans that we come across nowadays do offer both ways for you to save, both with pre-tax dollars and or with after-tax dollars, which we call Roth. So there's some advantages there and some considerations. Definitely talk to us, ask us questions, and we can talk through your situation and see what's best for you. Same thing if you're saving outside of a 401k, say in an individual retirement account, there's both traditional and Roth options. Most 401k plans have investment options called mutual funds. Most of the time, that is what you see. Most of the time, you are not able to invest in individual company stocks or annuities or cryptocurrency. Typically, it's mutual funds. And we do have a separate investing basics video. If you're interested in that, you can just let me know. But there's two main factors to consider when selecting your investments. And here's where we really help people too as advisors. But it's age and your risk tolerance. So, mutual funds are a pooled investment of many different company stocks, and they are professionally managed. They have a specific investment objective. So, some are primarily focused on investing in large technology companies, and some are focused on international funds, or some are focused on small and mid-sized financial institutions. So, they have different sizes and different industries that they invest in. The nice thing about mutual funds is they're diversified, right? So you have many different companies that are within this one portfolio. If something detrimental happens to one of them, they're not doing very well, they go out of business, that's really a small portion of that mutual fund. So it's not affecting your overall portfolio that much. So diversification is really key to reducing your risk. Another thing to keep in mind here with saving for retirement and investing is something called asset allocation and rebalancing. So, you want to be diversified among different asset classes. So, make sure you're investing in these different types and sizes of mutual funds and keep an eye on that proportion as you go. So, over any period of time, you may have a couple that perform really well and some that don't do as well, some may be okay, and so rebalancing is maintaining, you can see these circles here. So getting back to your intended allocation. And you can do that periodically, manually, or you can even set up something called automatic rebalancing. And definitely ask us if you have questions. We're always open to meeting with people. We can pull up your account, see where you're at, and see if we need to do any sort of tweaks or rebalancing to your investments. A big thing here is control what you can control. You can control how much you save and how often you increase your contribution. You can make sure that you are invested properly according to your age and your risk tolerance. You can't control the stock market. You can't control those unforeseen emergency expenses or medical emergencies that come up. You can't control if there's a pandemic or natural disaster. So really feel empowered in doing what you can do towards saving and investing. Now, once you've got a handle on steps 1 and 2, then move to step number 3. And step number 3 is more of a knowledge based step and not necessarily an action step. So develop your understanding of credit. So think about credit for a moment. Is it a valuable tool for you? Does it have kind of a negative connotation to you? Does it get you in trouble? Think of some words or feelings you associate with the word credit. Maybe it's overspending, shopping, wants versus needs, money, emergency, debt, interest. And really, credit can have advantages and disadvantages. So I want to show you kind of both sides of the coin here. So, advantages with using credit to pay for things. It is safer than cash. It's useful in emergencies, not to mention convenient when buying things over the phone or online. Nowadays, it seems like that's where most of my purchases happen are online or through some sort of an app. And responsible use of credit does build your credit history. Some disadvantages for some, it can lead to spending more than, say, if they were using cash. Maybe irresponsible use of it can damage your credit score. And there's the 5 C's of credit. And when lenders, banks, credit card companies, different financial institutions, when they decide if and how much credit they're going to extend to you, they use these 5 C's of credit. They put the most weight on numbers 1, 2, and 3. So, character, have you used credit before? Do you pay your bills on time? Capital, what else do you own? What income streams do you have coming in? Capacity, what is your job or other sources of income? Do you have other kinds of debts? Credit history, the track record that you've established over time, and then collateral. Do you have any? So mortgage, car, etc. So credit score, I think most of us are pretty familiar with this, but it is a range of numbers and it is based on a snapshot of your credit report and it identifies your credit risk. So it's just an easy way for your lenders to know if you are safe and responsible to lend credit to. So there's 5 main categories here. A lot of it is based on your on-time payments. So really want to drive that home. Even if you can't pay, say, your entire credit card bill, at least be making the minimum payment on time. A lot of your credit score is based off of on time payments. And next is capacity used. So for instance, if your limit on a credit card is $1,000, they look at, are you carrying over a balance of only $200 or $300 a month, or are you near the top 900 plus a month? So how much of that credit are you using? Length of history, new credit, and different types of credit. So the higher the number, the better with a credit score. And always, when you are applying for a credit card, a loan, you go to buy a car, anything, make sure to check the fine print for terms and rates. Are there any penalties for paying it off earlier? Does the rate adjust or is it fixed? And a little bit of a slippery slope here is you do need credit history before getting credit. So sometimes we find where, say, a young adult goes to buy a car or get pre approved for a mortgage, and if they don't have any other credit history, it's going to be not impossible in a lot of cases, but tougher to get credit extended to you, or maybe you have a much higher rate. So I do see, some, younger adults maybe getting a small sort of credit extension, whether it's like a credit card with a really small limit or their phone bill is in their name. Those are just a couple of examples, but you do need to show that you're responsible and kind of build that credit history up. Some states do correlate credit scores to car insurance rates, and the limits that you're extended are largely determined by your credit score. Feel empowered. Only you can repair and maintain your credit. So, again, pay your bills on time. Notify your creditor if you can't meet the payments. They would much rather hear from you and work with you and create some sort of a plan than not hear from you at all. Obviously, borrow only what you can afford to repay. Promptly report any missing credit cards. Notify if a statement is incorrect or not received. Don't give out your credit card number over the phone. If someone calls you, only if you initiate the call. And shred all documents containing account numbers. Just be really careful with that kind of stuff. Bankruptcy, just wanted to mention the consequences here are very severe. That stays on your credit report for 10 years. It doesn't forgive all of your debts, becomes part of the public record. And ultimately it may become more challenging for you to be extended credit in the future. So, again, think of yourself here. I do think that some can use credit very appropriately, and the advantages can outweigh the disadvantages. Make sure to remember on time payments, right? On time payments. Lenders take into consideration those 5 C's when they decide to lend you money. Good debt and bad debt, we'll get into that in a moment as well. But good debt is purchasing an asset that will increase in value or should increase in value. Bad debt is like a car, it loses value pretty quickly. And a good credit history and a high credit score ultimately gives you more financial flexibility. So we've covered steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now here's the big one. I would say for most people, this is the big one. Paying down non-deductible debt by creating a budget. And this one can take longer than maybe the other ones, depending on where you're at. Now, keep in mind when I'm saying pay down non-deductible debt, I'm not talking mortgage. So we're putting that over here for a moment and we're just talking credit cards, car payments, and student loan debt. This kind of debt is non-deductible. Some student loan debt may be the interest that you pay is tax deductible. So that one is the least important out of these three. So definitely talking credit cards and vehicle payments here. So there's many different ways to create and maintain a budget. I think a lot of times, excuse me, I think a lot of times when people hear this word, they think it's got to be this big fancy spreadsheet or a big fancy program or something that is really restrictive. There's a lot of different ways to create and maintain a budget. You can use fancy tools and apps and spreadsheets and programs, some that you even pay a lot of money for. But it can be as simple as getting out a piece of paper and writing things down, having two columns, money coming in and money going out. It can be as simple as that. So, with this process of writing down income coming in, money going out, and looking at a budget, it's really helpful because you may see that you have more expenses than income. If that happens, don't panic. It's good that you're doing this. You can find the cause, adjust your non essential spending, and shrink that existing debt. And for us as 401k advisors, we really notice that this step is important because if we're talking about saving more for retirement, if we're preaching to people best practices with saving into their 401k and increasing what they save over time into their 401k, that sounds good, but where are you going to come up with the money? Money doesn't grow on trees. So through this step 4, you can alleviate some of that debt that's weighing you down, or ideally all that debt that's weighing you down. And then you have the financial flexibility to do other things like save more for retirement and a whole host of other different financial goals. So whether you think you need to or not, going through this budgeting process can be really, really eye-opening. Make debt payoff a priority. The first step is to just write everything down. Again, it doesn't need to be fancy. I'm going to walk you through some examples, but the main pieces would be your balance, the interest rate, minimum monthly payments, and the time to pay it off. And sometimes even just this part can be a little time consuming. I'm not going to lie, because you want to gather it could be old statements or having to log in online. A lot of times when we talk to people, it's just not right in front of them, right? It's something you maybe get something every few months or log in every blue moon. So just gathering everything and writing it down, getting out in front of you, and so you can see what you got going on. Now, with debt pay down, there's two really common approaches. There's no right or wrong, but I'm going to walk you through an example. The first one is the lowest balance approach. This is otherwise coined as the Dave Ramsey snowball effect. If you've heard of Dave Ramsey, he's a author, speaker, he's got a radio show. He's just big in the financial wellness world. And him and his team do have a lot of great tools and resources and programs and classes. But this snowball effect is a really easy to remember strategy. And then I'll talk through the highest interest rate approach. So let's say you've got these 5 different debts, couple credit cards, couple student loans, and a mortgage. So the lowest balance approach would be writing them down in order from lowest balance to highest balance. So here we've got them prioritized 1 through 5. And of course, make the minimum payment on all of them on time, right? On time minimum payments all the time. But with the first one, the lowest balance, in this case, this $2,000 personal loan balance, through the process of budgeting and seeing what extra you can come up with every month, might need to make some adjustments with your lifestyle and what you're buying, right? But any excess, whether it's $10 extra or $50 extra, pay that on number one, the lowest balance. Minimum payment on everything, any extra attack number one. Once that's done, you take everything you were paying on number one and tack it on to number two, and you keep going that way. And this has been shown to give people that motivation. I'm doing it, I'm making progress, feeling good. And so it's that snowball effect. Now, this other version is going by interest rate. So, high interest rate approach. We're numbering them 1 through 5 from highest interest rate down to lowest interest rate. So, the order has shifted, right? We have our credit card with almost 25% interest rate is listed first. So, this approach says pay the minimum on time on everything, but any excess you can come up with, tackle the highest interest rate debt. Tackle, in this case, that credit card with 25% interest rate. Then, once that's gone, apply it to the next highest, which is the other credit card. So, this way financially makes more sense, but the Dave Ramsey snowball effect, I think, mentally might feel better, if that makes sense. So again, no right or wrong, whatever is going to give you motivation to continue on and get rid of some of that debt or all of that debt that's weighing you down. And like I mentioned before, not all debts are created equally. So good debt, purchase of an asset that is supposed to increase in value or should increase in value over time. Home is a great example there. And then bad debt are just things that'll immediately decrease. So cars, other things that go away right away, vacation, food, things like that. Um, if you find yourself in debt distress, and again, it's good that you're looking at it and doing it. It's a good practice, even if it's not what you're wanting to see or hear. But if you're in distress, so for example, you might be using credit card advances to pay for everyday living expenses. You might be overdrafting, dipping into savings to pay your bills, using one credit card to pay another. Some different things you can do are, again, contact your creditors. They're happy to hear from you versus not. They can create a plan, maybe internally to help you, or there are companies that consolidate debt. And then after transferring to one credit card consolidation company, they can help you create a plan. And it can be something too as simple as calling your creditors and asking for a lower interest rate. So many times, if you're a loyal customer and you have a decent credit history with them in the past, they'd be willing to at least entertain it. The worst they can say is no. Um, I don't have it on the screen here, but there are crisis or 1-800 helplines that I can align you with if you feel like you are in debt distress. So steps 1 through 4. It might take a while to get here, could be months, could be years, quite honestly. But you want to prioritize these in order because you really can't move forward if you're weighed down by debt, if you don't have that emergency budget. So, step 5 is to max out your health savings account if you're covered by a high deductible health insurance plan. And step 5, this might not apply to you depending on what health insurance program you're a part of. But if you have a HSA that is available to you, you want to hit this now. So max out your HSA if you're covered, if you have one available to you. Health savings account are a great way to save and pay for medical expenses. And fun fact, after age 65, you can use money in an HSA even on non-medical expenses. There's no penalty post age 65 to use that money on a vacation or to buy a camper. You just have to pay regular income taxes. So It is a great strategy since we know we're going to have medical expenses, but also it's like a secondary retirement account, knowing post age 65, you can use it on anything. But if you are enrolled in a high deductible health insurance plan, as you can look on the right, you have lower monthly premiums than someone on a traditional plan. So the thought here is that you can use that extra you would have been paying on premiums and tuck it away in this HSA. Some employers sometimes even put money into an HSA on employees' behalf. There are limits on what you can put in. So each year, just like a 401k, the IRS has a limit. So down at the bottom of the screen, you can see the 2023 limits are 3850 if you're on a single health insurance plan, and then 7750 if you're enrolled in a family plan. If you're over age 55, you can put in even more. But with this money, you can use it current day for medical expenses for you, your spouse, your eligible dependents. You can use it, you can save it and use it down the road. It's not a use it or lose it type of an account. It stays with you. They're a beautiful thing because they have triple tax savings. The contributions can be made on a pre-tax basis, so lowering your taxable income. You can earn money tax-free through investments inside your HSA. Typically, I see mutual funds just like a 401k lineup. So don't think your HSA money has to all sit in cash. Usually after 2000, or I've seen 2500 in the cash portion of an HSA, usually I see options then to invest in mutual funds. Um, if you have an HSA, just ask the details on your particular HSA because they're not all exactly the same. So put the money in pre-tax, earn money tax-free through investing, and then you can take it out tax-free if you use it for qualified medical expenses. Triple tax savings. Here's just an example. Optum is a very popular HSA provider I know around us. So you have a login, there's also an app. You can not only see your total account balance, but if you go to the investments tab, if you have over that threshold, let's say it's $2,000, anything above 2,000, you can invest. You can set up investment transfers in different mutual funds. I'm more than happy to help you look at your HSA mutual fund options and help you navigate that. So next, then we go back to the 401k. Remember in step 2, we talked about getting started saving for retirement, making sure if you have a match, take advantage of that. But we've had to take care of steps 3, 4, and 5 before we focus on ramping up your 401k contributions. So in step 6, we're going to assume that you've handled steps 1 through 5. So you're ready to bump up what you're saving. And hey, you have little to no debt anymore. So you can do that, right? You have more financial flexibility. So I would say a really good rule of thumb is to increase little by little, maybe every year, every other year, something like that, until you get to that 10 to 15% window of savings. And again, money doesn't grow on trees. We are well aware of that. And so that's why, remember, we did all that work with budgeting and finding ways to discover this extra to save. And it doesn't mean don't have any fun, don't go out to eat, don't buy coffee, don't go on any vacations, but truly prioritize saving for your future self. You'll be so glad that you did this. So once you've prioritized saving, then do those extra things. Then focus on those wants, right? And once you've taken care of the needs. Here's just an example. Because we encourage people often with these step up savings, if you've been at 5, go to 6. If you've been at 6 for a while, go to 7. We like to show the impact of that over time. So here's an example. Someone saves 5%. So look at the blue line. They're saving 5% from age 30 to age 65. They make $30,000 a year. and they invested that money. So at 65, yeah, they could very well have over $300,000. But if that same person, same situation, they bumped up 1% a year until they got to 10, they have almost double that, over 600,000 at age 65. And in the moment, it might not seem like it's that big of a deal to move from 5 to 6%, but over time, with the compounding interest and with the discipline of consistently doing it, it can add up. And here's just some small examples. Again, not to say don't do anything fun, don't buy anything, but truly think small here. So going to the vending machine a couple times a week, if that was actually saved and invested over 30 years, talking $16,000. Buying a coffee a couple times a week, 41,000. Lunch out a couple times a week, 100,000. So here and there, maybe make your coffee at home. Maybe pack a lunch. Again, not to say it needs to be an all or nothing thing, but we just want to show how this can really be broken down into baby steps. And a really good habit to get into is if there's a specific time of year, say that you have an evaluation and you get a raise in your pay, that is a really great time to increase your 401k contribution. You're not going to miss it because you were not living with that money before anyway. So never seen and never missed. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the time value of money. There's this magical thing called compound interest. And the earlier you start saving and earlier you start implementing these steps and bumping up your savings, the better off you are because you'll have more time for that money to compound and grow. The interest that you earned will then earn interest on its interest on its interest. So it's this exponential situation. So here's a chart just showing age across the bottom. If you start investing at age 22 versus age 32, you can see the impact of those 10 years over the course of time, having over a million versus having 550,000. How much money does it take to retire? Kind of a loaded question. It depends on a lot of different factors. Everyone is unique, but most advisors will recommend saving enough to replace 70 to 90% of your pay now in retirement. So, for example, if you make $100,000 a year now, in retirement, the thought is, okay, I can live on 70 to 90,000 because different things like I'm not saving for retirement when I'm in retirement. I have hopefully little to no debt, right? My kids have moved out of the house, hopefully, right? So various factors in there. So the ideal situation is you can live on a little bit less to maintain your standard of living. Now think about your 401k provider and the tools that they have out there. Maybe you've seen them, maybe you haven't, but we really like how in our industry now these 401k providers have retirement income calculators where we can plug in assumptions like here's your age, here's your approximate retirement date, here's how much you've saved so far, here's the percentage you're saving out of your paycheck, here's the match you're getting. And you can even add in other accounts that you have if you wanted to know, hey, I've got this other 401k or I've got an IRA over here. Can you incorporate that into my picture? And it will tell you what this will be as an estimated monthly income in retirement. These tools are very helpful to at least show us a ballpark of are you on track or not to reach that kind of replacement window of the 70 to 90%. You can even go as far as to say, I want to assume I want 100% or 110% of what I'm living off of now. So you can really customize these different things. Social Security is factored in there, and you can even include spouse or partner information as well. So I know with a lot of people, we've sat down and we've pulled up accounts, we've looked at these calculators, and that's something that me and my team are very happy to do with you. Number 7, and this may not pertain to everybody either, but here, prioritize saving for higher education expenses through a 529 plan. If you have children, if it's important for you to save for further education, This may be an area for you to focus on. So a 529 plan is a savings vehicle similar to an IRA, I would say, but it is a set amount of time as far as the investment time horizon, right? So you're saving while your child is growing up, and then the thought is they would use that money, say, in their late teens and 20s. The only caveat with 529s is that if you were to file for financial aid, the assets in the 529 plan do get counted as assets of the child. So you may, get less in assistance because you've got the 529. How much less? It's pretty hypothetical. There's not an exact, but just wanted to point that out. But student loan debt is a real problem right now. Just higher education, it's costing more and more. And that's not to say that it's something that children shouldn't pursue, but it's from a planning perspective. It is definitely smart to keep that in mind throughout their childhood years. Um, 40 million Americans share 1.75 trillion in student debt. And here's just an example, saving $100 a month for 18 years and investing that in a 529 could equate to approximately 40,000. I know some people, if their child gets money for their birthday or Christmas or something like that, a 529 plan is where they would put that money. And it's nice to start it sooner rather than later, just again on that time value of money and the compounding interest effect. Where do you open a 529? You can use your bank, your local bank. You could use financial companies online, such as Fidelity, T. Rowe Price, Vanguard. A lot of times it's real slick to just do it right online, and you can do even automatic transfers from your bank account. And we actually have in our webinar library, we have a 10-minute 529 focused presentation if you want a little bit deeper dive here. With the upcoming changes with Secure 2.0 legislation, we're seeing some options for transferring 529 accounts eventually to a Roth account, which is nice. So, kind of loosening the rules here. So, effective next year, 529s that have been open for at least 15 years have the option to roll over up to 35,000 into that beneficiary's Roth account. So let's say they have already gone to school, they don't need the rest of the 529 money that's in there, or they ended up not going on to further education. Eventually, after 15 years, it can be rolled to a Roth. And then the last step is paying your home off early. So notice throughout these entire steps, we really don't talk about a mortgage until step number 8. So here's just some strategies. I've heard a lot of creative things out there. So if this is helpful for you, then fantastic. So once you get to this point, you could consider paying down extra each month on your mortgage. And again, think small. Even a little bit extra can add up to a lot of saved time and money that you'd pay in interest. Can look into refinancing depending on the interest rate environment. For example, moving from a 30-year to a 15-year mortgage. Some will say don't pay it off early because you can invest that money, but there's no guarantees with stock market performance. Yes, we know historically what has happened. So keep that in mind. Here's a fun fact. Making one extra mortgage payment per year at the start of your 30-year mortgage can shorten the term by 4 to 5 years. Here's even more strategies. Pay half of your payment every 2 weeks instead of paying once per month. Not all lenders will let you do that, but by doing that, it gives you 26 half payments, which equates to an extra full payment every year. So it's just kind of a sneaky way to add in another payment each year. Add 1/12 extra each month, which equates to an extra full payment per year. So for example, if your mortgage payment is $900, 1/12 of that is $75, paid $975 every month, and that would equate to a whole nother extra payment every year. So different strategies there, and we're happy to talk more about that if you have specifics. So we've covered it all in the 45 minutes, 8 steps to becoming financially well. Again, we're really proud to bring this to people and have seen that it's very effective. This is clearly information that people are wanting. We've been doing a lot of group presentations and just really getting the word out there on our social channels. So this can be found on our website, 401kplanprofessionals.com, on the news and education tab. Every step is also broken down into a short 3 to 5 minute video on our YouTube channel as well. So taking this into a little more bite-sized pieces. Some upcoming webinars. Next month, we have cybersecurity. Trish from Empower Retirement. I'm doing another plan sponsor fiduciary training in November. I do those quarterly. Also in November, we have Karen from Neuberger Berman talking about anticipating the unexpected. And Gina will be doing a Secure 2.0 legislative update in December. That is the whole host of new legislation coming soon. So just doing a deeper dive on that with more guidance we've gotten throughout the year. So thank you so much for coming today and listening to this webinar on our financial wellness steps. We really appreciate it. Happy to help if you have questions and want to set up an individual meeting. We're absolutely a resource to you. Thanks, everybody.